Surprise, it's me. Sorry to disappoint. I'm a little taller and a lot more obnoxious than Jason, so sorry about that. If you don't know me, my name is Alex Harding. I am the former youth pastor here at Ignite Church, and my wife was the kids pastor here at Ignite. We actually helped plant the church way back in the day, 2009. We moved from Raleigh. We were going to college there to help plant Ignite. That being said, I'm super excited about this new season of ministry you guys are heading into. The building, anybody else excited about having our own permanent space? Super excited, incredibly jealous. Alex, check your heart. So I'm really excited about that, man. That's going to allow you guys to do so much more ministry and reach so many more people. So what a blessing. But to give you a little background about me, my wife and I met in about 2007. I'm totally guessing. My wife, she's out here somewhere. I'm going to have her stand up and come on stage. Where are you at, Beth? No, I'm just kidding. She's over there like, what? No. But we met in 2007 in college. We were going to college to do missions work. So we were going to finish college and go into the mission field. But God had different plans for our lives. Anybody else that happened to you before? Like you make some plans, you think they're good, and then God's like, psht. You know? And so this was one of those situations for us. Around 2008, you know, Jason and Chris are talking about planting this church, and they're getting really serious about it. And so they talked to us about coming and helping them plant Ignite. And so in 2009, we moved here to help plant Ignite Church. And wow, it's so amazing to see what God has done over the past almost 10 years now. That's crazy. I'm old. It's official. But that has been so cool to be a part of. But around 2015, we started feeling like unsettled, right? Have you ever felt that way before? Like where you're at, what you're doing is good, and maybe it's comfortable. But you start to feel like, man, maybe this isn't really what God made me for. You know, what I'm doing here is good. I'm not doing anything bad, and I'm getting paid well. I'm doing well. I'm successful, but maybe I was created for something different. Around 2015, my wife and I started wrestling with these feelings of just like being out of place. And so as we started to pray and dig into that, we felt like God was just nudging us back to that original calling He placed on our lives to go into missions. So as we surrendered to that calling and started trying to prepare our hearts for that through a crazy series of events, the Lord led us to Uganda. In August 2016, my wife was 33 weeks pregnant when we went to Uganda for the first time. We went for 10 days just to kind of check it out, see maybe this is where God's leading us. And sure enough, God confirmed our calling, our family's calling to Uganda. We came back. I announced to the church October 2017 that we would be leaving. And 5 months later, we got on a plane with our 5 kids and moved to Uganda. Crazy. Now, Uganda is, let's see, what's the best way to sum it up? You can't sum it up with words. Uganda it's difficult. It's different. It's hard. It's weird. A lot of things don't make sense, but it's been the most amazing experience for us and for our family. I wanted to share with you guys some of the difficult things I've had to deal with in Uganda, okay? How many of you guys have been on a short-term mission trip overseas? Okay, we've got a few of you guys. Like if you've been to on a mission trip overseas for like a couple weeks, it's always like you get a highlight reel. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, this is so cool. This is so nice. But when you live there permanently, it's a little bit different to just like adjust to the culture. And one of the most difficult things for me to adjust to, guys, was driving. All right? How many of you guys are like, all right, let's just be real, okay? Let's just be honest with each other first. How many of you guys have just a touch of road rage? Anybody? Everybody with your hands down your line. Okay, that's me. That's my story. Check your heart, Alex. It's okay. I understand. Nobody's perfect, all right? Driving in Uganda just ain't right, folks. Okay? There's these vehicles called matatus. Let me show you what a matatu looks like. It's a taxi, okay? Now you got to think, Uganda's super low income place, and so a lot of people don't have cars. Like 99% of people don't have cars. Most people rely on public transportation. So these things are everywhere. There's zillions of them. You think I'm joking, but I'm not, okay? And they are constantly, it even says, most of them say 15 passenger maximum. Like, I have been, okay, so this is what a Matatu, normally looks like. This is what a Matatu looks like most of the time. You see that right there? They got stuff on top, they got stuff in the back. I have literally seen Matatus with hundreds of chickens on the top. Alive. They're alive chickens. I don't know how they get them down, and I don't know, but it's crazy. And these people have a reckless abandon for human life. They do not care. They don't. They will run you off the road. They will run you over. They will cut in front of you. They don't use their turn signal. The best thing is when they use their hand, and they'll just stick their hand out the window and do this. And that means I am going to cut you off. Get out the way. Okay? Correct. Could you imagine that here? If someone just stuck their hand out the window and was like, and just whipped over, I'd be like, bro, pit maneuver. All right, then, okay, so those are Matatus. Now, there's also these things called bodas. Let me show you what a boda looks like, okay? A boda is a motorcycle taxi, okay? So they're a little bit cheaper than Matatus. You obviously can't carry as much on a boda, or can you? Let's see. This is real life, folks. This ain't made up. Look at that. I got a couple of barrels I need to get somewhere. Let me just throw it on my boda. That's a couch. Look at the verse in the background. There's a verse in the background. I thought that picture was awesome. But I have seen live cows on a boda. Like real life cows, goats, chickens, 14 people. Okay, now imagine your kid needs to get to school and you got 5 like me. Dang, Gina. Those is children. Could you imagine putting your kid on a motorcycle taxi and just being like, good day at school? Knowing that people drive crazy. So driving is very difficult. There's no rules, really. There's this verse in Judges. If you read Judges, God raises up this leader, and then after the leader dies, the same thing happens every time. It says, then Israel had no leader, and everyone did what was right in their own eyes. That is driving law in Uganda. Yeah, everyone does what is right in their own eyes. It does not matter. Now, you add on top of that, the road conditions are less than desirable, okay? Potholes here and there and everywhere. Jinja, which is the city we live in, the population is actually pretty comparable to Greenville. It's about 70,000, 80,000 in Jinja. There are no stoplights in Jinja. 1, 2, 3, 4, 0. Okay, there's none. All right, and stop signs in Uganda are kind of weird. They're about 30 feet before where you're supposed to stop, which doesn't make sense. So driving has been difficult. Those first few months, I was constantly angry while driving. Check your heart, Alex. Okay, check your heart. My wife did not ride in the front seat for the first 6 months. Not kidding. You can ask her after the service because I just did what was right in my own eyes too. Watch me whip. Then there's everyday life in Uganda, okay? How many of you guys enjoy grocery shopping? Nobody. Okay, me either. So you guys have this sweet little store we used to go to back in the day, Walmart. You guys ever been there before? Walmart, you can get everything. You can buy tires for your car and dinner for your children at the same time. Okay, Walmart is great. I never realized how much I would miss Walmart. My wife, we like to do like weekly shopping, right? So on Monday, she will give me a list of everything she needs. Guys, it takes me half of a day to get groceries for 1 week. And the reason why is because you can't go one place and get everything. There ain't no Actually, I'm going to take that back. There is a Walmart there. It's called Walmart Cash and Carry, and it is false advertising, and I should sue because it is nothing like a Walmart. They did that to trick the Mzungu, which is how you say white person in Luganda, okay? So going grocery shopping just turns it, so there's one supermarket you can go to get some things, and then you have to go to a different supermarket in town to get some of the different things. And then Central Market is the best place to get produce, but it's crazy. It's like 3 Walmarts stacked on top of each other with like local vendors all over the place. And because I'm a Mzungu, they always try to overcharge me, right? Because when they see a white person, they think that man got some money, right? So I will go and try to buy something, and they'll try to charge me 3 times the amount. Now, in the beginning, I'll just pay it because I didn't know that was not the right price. But as I started to learn, now another thing, there's no price sticker on anything anywhere. Could you imagine that? Like just trying to go buy something and there's no price on anything. And so you have to ask them, how much is this? And they're like, that's $1 zillion. And it's like, listen, I know I'm white. Leave me alone. How much does it really cost? But everything's negotiable, so that's kind of fun. Because I'm constantly, even when I lived in America, I would try to get people to give me stuff for free. So I fit in pretty well there. Another thing that was difficult and took a while to get used to is just ministry. Right? Like here I was a youth pastor. You put me in a school lunchroom, and I guarantee you I will leave that place and know 20 new kids. Easy. You know what I mean? Like connecting with people, connecting with students, and doing things like that were super easy. Here's a picture of me at the secondary school preaching, Beth doing some kids ministry stuff. Oh, that's me again. I'm wearing the same shirt. Oops. That was totally planned, I promise. But it was different. Like the things I used to do to connect with students didn't work there, right? Like sports. Like playing basketball in Uganda with these students is awesome. I'm legit like Michael Jordan and Shaquille O'Neal put into one. These kids have no idea how to play basketball. It is wonderful and frustrating. Because I leave with like bruises and scratches, right? But then you put me on a soccer pitch, and these kids look like Pele, and I look like my kid in the 3-year-old soccer team running around not knowing where to go or what to do. But just getting used to ministry and building relationships with students, it took time. It was really difficult because it didn't work. I had to relearn how to do ministry. And so this past year, it's been really hard, but it's been really great. And my wife and my family and myself, we've experienced so much growth. We go back August the 7th, which is in like 10 days. So I'm super excited to be here today and to start this series, Check Your Heart. Now, the idea behind this series is kind of like, and I know when you look at the video, it's kind of like check your heart to everybody else. But what we're trying to do with this series is we're trying to call ourselves out. What's some ways we can check our heart when it comes to the way we live? And I've recently become kind of infatuated with making cool titles for things. So the title of the sermon is called Living Your Best Life. Living Your Best Life. So I'm going to start by sharing this verse with you. It's 1 Timothy chapter 6. I'm going to drink some water. I'm thirsty. 1 Timothy chapter 6, verses 17 through 19. And it's funny because this is actually the very first youth sermon I ever preached was on this exact passage. It says, "Command those who are rich in this present world not to be arrogant, nor to put their hope in wealth, which is so uncertain, but to put their hope in God, who richly provides us with everything for our enjoyment. Command them to do good, to be rich in good deeds, and to be generous and willing to share. In this way, they will lay up treasure for themselves as a firm foundation for the coming age, so that they may take hold of the life that is truly life." What does Paul mean when he says, so that they may take hold of the life that is truly life? What does that statement mean? What is true life? Like, I want you all to close your eyes for a moment and imagine your best life. The best possible life you could live. What does that look like for you? I think for all of us, it looks a little bit different. You can open up your eyes so you don't just sit there with your eyes closed all day or fall asleep on me. It's first service. You never know, right? What's the best life you can imagine? What's the best life you can imagine? What is truly life to you? And then what's truly life if we go on the life that Jesus lived and the example he set for us? Maybe we've got it wrong a little bit. Maybe, Ignite, we need to check our hearts. Today I want to talk to you about a few areas we need to check our heart when it comes to living our best life. Number one is we should check our hearts when you think you are lacking. When you think you are lacking. Okay? Quick survey, all right? How many of you guys grew up poor? I'm raising my hand because that was me, folks. Right? Like me, we rarely ever had new clothes, new shoes, new book bags. Like I used to get picked on first day of school all the time because I didn't show up with new things. When we did get new things, we got them from Goodwill a lot of times. My family just didn't have a lot of money. My diet consisted of frozen Tostino's pizza, pizza rolls, and, okay, Tina's Burritos. Anybody know Tina's Burritos? Nope, y'all all grew up rich. What's wrong with y'all folks? Okay? Tina's Burritos, frozen burritos, beef and bean. My older sister, is sitting out here somewhere. She was the heater up of the burritos. I used to get mad because you're supposed to flip them halfway through, right? And if you start it on the side that doesn't have the seam in it, and then you flip it and do the side that does have the seam in it, it would explode. And I used to get really mad about that. But thanks, sister, for heating up Tina's Burritos for me. But yeah, we grew up without a lot of money. When Beth and I first got married, we were in college, we did not have money. We were not very well established. I remember we were on Medicaid and food stamps for the first few years of our marriage, right? I always thought that I grew up poor, especially during my childhood until I moved to Uganda. And when I moved to Uganda, I realized, we don't know what poor is. We don't know poor. A recent study found that 35% of Ugandans live on less than $1.90 a day. $1.90. Literally, when Uganda was doing this survey, they fudged the number. The national poverty, or the extreme poverty line, is $2.50. But Uganda did the survey on $1.90, so their statistics wouldn't look as bad. If they did it for $2.50, it'd be well over 50% of the country that lives in extreme poverty. I have a friend who works in a factory for 8,000 shillings a day. That's $2.22. He works 12 hours for $2.22 a day in a factory. No labor laws, by the way, folks. He has to get up in the morning and show up an hour and a half, 2 hours early because they take you first come, first serve. So he waits in line for an hour and a half before he works for 12 hours. That means, listen, if you work at McDonald's for minimum wage in 2 hours, you make more money than this guy makes working a 60-hour work week. We don't know poor. We don't know poor. Now, it's easy. It's really easy to sit here and feel bad about that. Whoa, that's not cool. That kind of, wow, it's really easy to sit here and feel hurt by that, or maybe surprised by that, but it's really easy to walk out and never really think about it. But I can't do that anymore because these faces have names to me now. These are real people that live in extreme poverty. Did you know if you make $33,000 a year, you're in the top 1% of earners in the world? $33,000 a year, top 1% in the entire world. And if you make $80,000 or more, you're in the top 0.1% of wage earners in the entire world. The dude in the factory is making $577 a year. I have a phone in my pocket that costs 2 times as much as that. We don't know poor. We don't know poor. I want to share this verse, Haggai chapter 1, verses 5 through 7 says, "Now therefore, thus says the Lord of hosts, consider your ways." Exclamation point, so I'm going to yell it. Consider your ways. You have sown much and bring in little. You eat, but you do not have enough. You drink, but you are not filled with drink. You clothe yourselves, but no one is warm. And he who earns wages to put into a bag with holes. Thus says the Lord of hosts, consider your ways. Modern translation, thus says the Lord of hosts, check your heart. Check your heart. We need to check our heart because God has blessed us with more than we need. We are rich. Now listen, I know it's easy for you to look at your situation and your bills and your job or lack thereof and think that you aren't. But compared to that's just Uganda, the overwhelming majority of the world, we are rich. I want you to look to your left and say, I'm rich. And look to your right and say, cool, you're buying lunch. We're blessed with more than we need. We are rich, but we spend our whole lives feeling like we never have enough or always wanting more. We need to check our hearts. Ignite. I want to read this verse for you again. Timothy, command those who are rich. Hey, that's you and you and you and you and you and everybody in this room. Command those who are rich in this present world not to be arrogant, nor to put their hope in wealth, which is so uncertain, but to put their hope in God, who richly provides us with everything for our enjoyment. Listen, it's not a sin to be rich. You ain't do nothing wrong. I don't want you to sit here and think, oh man, I'm rich, I'm doing terrible, I ain't giving money. No, it's not a sin to be rich. I'm not trying to get at you for being rich. Right? Command them to do good, to be rich in good deeds, and to be generous and willing to share. In that way, they will lay up treasure for themselves as a firm foundation for the coming age, so that they may take hold of the life that is truly life. Living your best life is realizing that you are extremely blessed. And then deciding, what are you going to do with that blessing? Number 2. We should check our hearts when we think God doesn't care about generosity. We should check our hearts when we think that God does not care about generosity. I want to share a parable with you guys. If you read the New Testament, you see Jesus spoke parables a lot. People would ask a question, Jesus would answer with a story. Jesus was a really good storyteller. And these stories were meant to not necessarily explain things. Sometimes it would raise more questions. But Jesus would teach these lessons or illustrate a moral or spiritual lesson through parables. So I want to share this parable with you. It's not in the Bible. It's one that I didn't make it up. I'm not going to take credit for it. I read it in a book, but it was incredibly convicting for me. It's called Jesus Feeds the 5,000, a Western translation. You ready? It's going to sound a lot like the one in the Bible. So Jesus is sitting with his disciples in this field. And there's 5,000 men, not including the women and their children. And they've come to hear Jesus speak. So Jesus stands up and Jesus speaks. He speaks about love. He speaks about generosity. He speaks about caring. He speaks about so many of these different things. And as Jesus is finishing up, the disciples realize, like, it's time to eat, right? So Jesus goes to the disciples, and the disciples go to Jesus, and they're like, Jesus, we need to get some food for these people, right? And Jesus is like, okay, go get some food. What do you want from me, right? And so the disciples are like, where are we going to go? So Jesus is like, just go get what you can. So the disciples go. They find this boy with a couple fish and a few loaves of bread. So they bring the boy to Jesus. And Jesus is like, sweet, good start, good start. Okay, now I want you to go to the crowd. And I want you to gather all their provisions. Get anything they brought with them for the day. And then bring it to the front. So the disciples go out through the crowd. Sure enough, it takes a long time, but they go through the crowd. They're collecting fish, collecting bread, collecting this and that. Probably some like Twizzlers and fruit by the foot and stuff, you know. And so they come and they bring this all to Jesus, and they set it all in front of Jesus. And Jesus blesses the food, and he sits down with his disciples, and he eats. And him and the disciples sit there, and they eat all the food. Jesus and the disciples sit there, and they eat all the food until nothing's left, not even enough crumbs to put into the hand of a poor man. Now, hearing this parable, you might think, well, that is the most jacked up thing I've ever heard. Like, you're probably thinking, like, what? Whoa, like, you started out good, but you really fudged the ending, right? But my question for us today is, if we are supposed to be the representation of Christ on earth, why do we live that way? We collect, we hoard. We buy new things and buy this and that and the other. Like, listen, when me and my family, surrendered to this calling to move to Uganda, and we had to sell, like, we couldn't take all of our stuff with us, I didn't even realize how much crap I had. It was funny when I realized that I had stuff stored above my house, under my house, in a building at back, and like at various other family members' houses, right? Like, I have a lot of stuff. Like, I spent my whole life collecting and getting things together and building my wealth. Jesus puts it this way in Matthew 6. It says, "Do not lay up for yourself treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, Ignite, there your heart will be also." So I want to ask us, where's your treasure? Where's our treasure? Not where you think it is, because it's easy to sit here and think, well, I give to this and I do that, and I support a kid in Africa, and I tithe when I can. But I want you to think, like, if you were to look at your bank account today, where's your treasure at? Where's your treasure go? Because listen, where your treasure is, that's where your heart is. Let's check our heart. Where's our treasure? Don't sit there and get mad at me. Like, Jesus said that, not me. I'm just repeating what he said. Where's our treasure? Do we live sacrificially? Are we generous? What does generosity look like? If you had to define the word generosity, what would it be? What would be your definition? For me, it simply means caring more about people than your things. Generosity means caring more about people than your things. And I've had some beautiful examples of this in the time that we've been back. We had a family that offered to let us use their car the whole time we were here. But when we got back, we realized they had a couple things to do, so it was going to be a couple of weeks. So I was at the office one day, and I was telling some friends, yeah, we got a car that some people are going to let us use, but they're not going to be able to give it to us for like 10 days. And one of my very dearest friends was there, and she said, well, just use my car. Follow me home, you can have it. And I was like, what? Like, people don't just give you their car typically. Okay? Then here's the funny thing, okay? About a week later, I was driving in the rain, okay? It was raining. Don't judge me, all right? And we were at one of those stupid camera stoplights. And the light turned yellow, and little Miss Antsy Feet wanted to stop. And I rear-ended that girl. Boy, bam! I tried. I hit the brakes. It just didn't stop. And so I'm like calling them up, like, hey, so it was raining. And there was the light. I think it malfunctioned. Yeah, I ran into somebody. And he's like, it's okay, just pull over here, I'll come and get it. And I'm like, well, dang it, like, we still got like 5 days before this other car comes through. And I'm like, okay, we're just kind of without a car for 5 days. This dude calls me up the next day. He's like, hey, where are you at? I'm going to bring you this car. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, you still need it, right? And I was like, yes. We're at Sweet Frog. Bring it on. Right? Like, that's generosity, man. If you ram someone else's car into another car and they give it back to you, that is pretty generous. Right? Then this other family that told us that we could use their car finally gets to the day where we're supposed to pick that up. We're actually picking it up here. I'm parked in the back. And these people, I'm like, okay, they should be showing up any minute. And I see this brand new 4Runner come around the corner. And I'm like, okay, that's definitely not them. And they pull up right beside me, and it's them. And this is a brand new 4Runner with less than 5,000 miles on it. Okay? Like, who gives their brand new car to some family of 7 with 5 kids that are 9 years old and younger? Like, I can't tell you how many people I've told, like, they let us use their car, and they're like, what? Their new car? They let you use their new car? It's like, yeah, they're generous. The thing is, they care more about us than they care about their stupid car. That's generosity. When you look at Jesus' life, he models the same thing. Because here's the thing. We're the church, and we exist for the world. We are the church. We are the representation of Christ on earth. And we exist for the world. We exist for other people. They matter more than the things that we have, than our house, than our car. And listen, it's not just about money. I don't care about your money. It's about time. It's about investing in people. It's about how we treat others. Because here's the thing. On this earth, you can build one of two things. You can build a castle or you can build a kingdom. We were sent here by Christ to build the kingdom. But listen, you can spend your whole life building a castle, and it can be beautiful. You can have a nice house and a nice car and nice things and great, and build up your walls and build up your moat and only allow in the people that you want in and keep the rest of the world out. That is not what Christ called us to do. He called us to build the kingdom. And the kingdom includes everyone. The kingdom allows everybody in, when the castle keeps everybody out. Again, I want to encourage you that having a nice house and a nice car, those things are not bad. It's the heart. Are we generous? Are we loving? Do we care more about that house than we care about people? Because if you do, man, just get rid of it. 1 second, that house could be gone. We look at Jesus' life. Jesus cared about the kingdom. Jesus cared about people. People were first and foremost to him. How different would this city look if we lived that way, church? If people mattered. And I'm there with you, man. I'm not preaching to you from a place of I've figured things out. Because listen, life in Uganda, it's so annoying. Because relationships are super important, right? And I've lived my whole life being like, time is money, bro. I got this to do, there. But like in Uganda, if a person who sees you on the side of the street holds up their hand and tries to flag you down, it's considered incredibly offensive to keep going without stopping to talk to them. Right? So I'm like driving down the road. Oh, Perez just threw his hand up, babe. We got to stop. Stop, Perez. Oh, Alex, Pastor Masumba. Masumba is Luganda for pastor. Masumba, how are you? How are things? We are doing ministry at the Hill this weekend. We want you to come. And it's like, hey, Perez, how you doing? Like I've had to teach myself to stop and listen and love and make other people feel important. Stop. Listen, we spend a good majority of our lives avoiding other people. Avoiding areas of town where we might feel a little convicted because it's impoverished. I mean, I'm telling you, every time I pull up to the corner and that guy is on the corner, or pull up to the stoplight and that guy's on the corner begging for money, I magically get a text message at that exact time. Every time. He's just going to use it for beer and cigarettes. You know what I mean? Like we spend our lives avoiding people. That's how we build castles. And you can build a really nice castle, but castles are temporary. They always fall down. Kingdom lasts forever. Kingdom lasts forever. So can I ask you to check your heart? If we're supposed to be the representation of Christ on earth, generosity should matter. Not just financially, but relationally. Are we generous? Number 3. All right, I'm going to take another. I'm going to drink some more water. Y'all can just breathe for a second. It's feeling a little heavy in here. Anybody on there? It's just me? Okay. It's cool. It's cool. You're sweating, not me. It's fine. Number 3, last point, guys. We're almost there. Just hold on. We're coming home. We need to check our hearts when we think we can't make a difference. We need to check our hearts when we think that we can't make a difference. I said it earlier, I'll say it again. It's really easy to hear these things and feel convicted right now and walk right outside of those doors and not do a freaking thing about it. That's what the enemy wants. That's exactly what he wants. He does not care how you feel in this room at all. He cares about what you do when you walk out that door. And if you can feel something in here but go out there and do nothing, he's cool with it. I want to talk to you for a second about hearing the word and heeding the word. Hearing the word and heeding the word. There's a squeaky spot right here. We need some WD-40 second service. I'm going to get the tech team on that. Hearing the word and heeding the word. Hearing the word is important. And you can hear the word and agree with the word, and that's great. You can hear everything I've said and say, you know what, that's a pretty good point. I could probably be a little bit more generous with my finances. I could probably be a little bit more generous with my time, make people feel important, included, let other people know about Christ, what he's done in my life, blah, 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 blah. You can hear and agree, but not heed the word, not leave and do something about it. James, Jesus' brother, puts this really well. James chapter 2, verse 19-20 says, "You say you have faith, for you believe that there is one God. Good for you! Even the demons believe this, and they tremble in terror. How foolish! Can't you see that faith without good deeds is useless?" He goes on to say something that we've heard in the church world a lot. Faith without works is, oh man, faith without works is dead. You sit here and feel convicted all you want to, but if something inside of you doesn't change, it doesn't matter. When you heed the word, you change the world. When you heed the word, when it changes something inside you, you change the world. Not you might change the world, you will change the world. John chapter 14, verse 12. Jesus says this, "I tell you the truth. Anyone who believes in me will do the same works I have done, and even what? Greater works." There are 2 people awake this morning. I tell you the truth, anyone who believes in me will do the same works I have done, and what? Even greater works, because I'm going to the Father. Listen, what were you created to do? This whole sermon this morning is all about one thing. What were you created to do? What were you made for? What are you excited about? What are you passionate about? What were you made to do? And whatever that looks like, you can build the kingdom doing that anywhere. You can build the kingdom in McDonald's as an employee. You can build the kingdom on the back of a trash truck as an employee. It doesn't matter what you do. It's how you live. It's how you live. It doesn't matter if you live in Greenville and work in a doctor's office, or if you live in the third world country and, get mad at a matatu driver every day. What were you created to do? Do you know? Do you know? Listen, I'm not here to tell you today that you should give more or what you should give to. And I'm not here today to tell you that you should sell everything you have and move to the third world country. And I'm not here today to tell you that you're not giving enough or not doing enough, but I am here to tell you that God wrapped himself in flesh and came to the world because you mattered to him more than comfort. And I am here to tell you that he lived a life filled with love and generosity as he healed and preached and gave of himself to his people. Because he wanted to model generosity and love for us. He wanted to show us what it looked like and pour it out on us. And I am here to tell you that he chose to give up everything to the point of being beaten, stripped naked, and murdered publicly in front of the world. Because his sacrifice changed everything. Because sacrifice matters. Woo! Ephesians 2, verse 8 through 12 said, God saved you by his grace when you believed, and you can't take credit for this. It's a gift from God. Salvation is not a reward for the good things we have done, so none of us can boast about it. For we are God's masterpiece. Ignite. We are God's masterpiece. You are God's masterpiece. He has created us anew in Christ Jesus so we can do the good things he planned for us long ago. You are God's masterpiece. You were created for something, to leave a mark on this world. And he thought you were important enough to give everything away. His comfort, his life. That's how important you are to him. So don't you dare sit here today and feel defeated. Don't you dare sit here today and feel beat up like you're not doing good enough, you're not giving enough, you're not sacrificing enough, because that's not how he feels. He's here today calling you closer. Come on, take my hand. Let's do this together. I'll show you what it looks like. I'll show you how to be generous. I'll show you how to sacrifice. I'll show you how to love. I'll show you how to build a kingdom and not a castle. Matthew 16:25 is the last verse I have for you. And this verse has taken on a completely different meaning for me in the past year and a half. And if I cry, it's not my fault. It's Jason's fault. I don't know why I said that. It just sounded good. For whoever would save his life will lose it. But whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. Don't spend your whole life building up things that don't last. Don't spend your whole life trying to make your life as comfortable for you or for your kids or for your family. Don't do that. It's a waste. Whoever loses their life will find it. Listen, when we moved to Uganda, we lost the American dream. Okay? And that's okay. I'm not trying to throw shade at anybody at all. Like, you have to understand my heart here. Okay? But one thing I found in moving away from everything we had here was I found so much more in a place where there's so much less. I can't explain it. And like moving there was really hard because everything I thought I was going to be doing there, I didn't do or I sucked at. I was not good at youth ministry, guys. I did not know how to connect with these kids. But God moved me there and He used me to do things I didn't even know I could do. And I can't go into great detail about the different things that have happened in the past year, but like I got involved in this church, and God was able to use my involvement in that church to bring about growth. And I got involved in this organization, and He did the same thing. And it, not about me. I didn't do anything. He did it all. He just used me. We need to check our hearts, Ignite. What were you created for? What were you created to do? He wants to show you. If you'll just listen, if you'll just look for it, He'll show you. I promise. This last season of ministry for us was the most difficult of my entire life. Hands down, best year I've ever experienced. Hardest, best year I've ever experienced. And now as we move back, we're going to be able to launch a new ministry. Like that whole last season was a season of preparation for what the Lord is launching us into now. And we're going to be able to send kids to school who can't afford it. Kids who don't have a future. We'll help them. And we'll be able to pour into medical needs and help people that die daily from things that we could treat for the change in your cup holder in your car. And we're going to support missionaries and pour into missionaries and their families and give them opportunities to connect and love each other. And because missions is hard. And we're going to do every single thing, pointing everyone possible directly to Jesus. And so if you want to partner with us on that journey, we're going to be out in the lobby. Come hug me, say hey to me, regardless. If you want to partner and give and help us to reach these goals and do this ministry in Uganda, you can do that. If you want to partner with this church, you can do that. If you want to partner with Adopt a Pirate, you can do that. Backpack Pals, there's 1,000 things that this church does to build the kingdom. Whether it's missions or whatever, you can do that. But I want to challenge you and encourage you to look at the life of Christ. Look at the example He set. And I want you to think of ways that we can shift our thinking from building castles in the sand to building kingdoms that last forever. Let's pray. Jesus, we love you. I thank you for my family. I thank you for bringing me home, God, for this short season and allowing me to speak into their lives, Lord. And I pray that no one here today would feel condemned because condemnation does not come from you. But I pray that conviction would turn into action today, Lord. I pray that even now you would be speaking to them and they would be thinking of ways that they can surrender, that they can sacrifice more, whether it's financially, whether it's relationally, Lord. I pray that they would see the world with new eyes. They would realize that we are blessed, that we are rich, and that in and of itself is not a sin, but what we do with that blessing matters. And God, so help us to pour it out on your people like you did on us. God, help us to build the kingdom and leave the sandcastles behind. And we thank you, God, that you are a God that sacrificed so that we could experience freedom and we could experience true love and generosity. We love you in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you guys for allowing me this opportunity to speak. We'll be back here next week at the convention center. Next week will be my last week too, so make sure you hug me or high five me or fist bump me or something before we go. Y'all have an awesome day.